A prominent Biafra agitator has stated that Biafra's independence was declared on 29th of November 2024, and there is no turning back. He revealed that the Nigerian constitution is described as flawed, with limitations that hinder unity and development. He acknowledged the role of the Middle Belt during the Civil War, including a formal apology for past actions. He sees this as a step towards reconciliation. Nigerian leaders and elites are criticized for failing to address systemic issues, with a call for youth-led movements to lead the change. Examples of peaceful separations in other countries, such as Malaysia and Singapore, are used to argue for Nigeria's disintegration into self-governed regions. He, however, encouraged Biafrans to remain resilient, unified, and vigilant against distractions or propaganda. He asserts that Biafra has declared its independence and is seeking global recognition. There is a call to reject any return to the Nigerian system, claiming preparedness for self-governance. The Nigerian constitution is described as outdated, oppressive, and unable to foster unity, peace, or progress. Structural issues include an imbalance of power, with 68 items on the exclusive legislative list and only 12 on the concurrent list, which are poorly defined. The Middle Belt's role in the Nigerian Civil War and the associated genocide against the Igbo people is highlighted. The Middle Belt youths have apologized for their ancestors' complicity and expressed solidarity with the Biafran cause. Nigerian elites and politicians, including those from the southeast, are accused of ignoring the people's demands for independence. Leaders are seen as complicit in maintaining the status quo, with youth movements stepping up to lead the call for freedom. He encourages Biafran supporters to remain united and not be swayed by propaganda or blackmail. He highlights the ongoing challenges, but stressed the importance of resilience and determination in the fight for freedom. He urged Biafra supporters to prepare for tougher times and follow directives from the movement's leadership. He warns against distractions and underscores the importance of vigilance, discipline, and adherence to strategic instructions. This news update is deeply rooted in political and historical sentiments, reflecting the perspectives of a segment of the Biafran movement. It also serves as a rallying cry for the Biafran movement, blending historical grievances, contemporary political challenges, and a vision for the future. It calls for solidarity, highlights systemic injustices in Nigeria, and underscores the urgency of self-determination for Biafra. Let me take you on a journey into a story that has gripped the hearts of many and sent ripples of both hope and unease across a region. Picture this: a nation within a nation, a movement born out of decades of grievances, and a declaration that leaves no room for second-guessing. This is the tale of Biafra's independence declaration and the struggles that come with it. It was on the 29th of November 2024 when the announcement was made. Biafra's independence was declared, not as a whisper, but as a roaring proclamation. Not as a whisper, but as a roaring proclamation to the world. For the people behind this movement, it was not just a political stance, but a defining moment in their history. A stand against what they believed was systemic oppression under the Nigerian constitution. They felt the need to chart their own course, unshackled from a system they deemed outdated and restrictive. Let me tell you about one of the key figures in this saga. A prominent agitator for Biafra's independence stood before his people and said, "There is no turning back." His words carried the weight of years of frustration and a vision of a new dawn. He described the Nigerian constitution as deeply flawed, incapable of fostering unity, peace, or progress. He cited its inherent limitations, like the imbalance of power it creates. Did you know that out of the many responsibilities allocated in that constitution, 68 are reserved for the federal government, while only 12 are shared with the states? Even those shared responsibilities are so vaguely defined that they cause confusion instead of collaboration. This leader wasn't just addressing his people. He was making an appeal to the world, to everyone who would listen. He talked about the role of the Middle Belt during Nigeria's civil war, a region that had, at one point, aligned itself with forces that committed atrocities against the Igbo people. Yet, in a surprising twist, the youth of the Middle Belt had come forward to apologize for their ancestors' role in the conflict. Imagine the courage it took for them to stand up and say, "We are sorry for what our fathers did. We want to make amends." It was a gesture of reconciliation that could pave the way for alliances in the future. But this story is not just about the past. It's also about the present and the future. The Nigerian elites and leaders, including some from the southeast, were criticized for turning a blind eye to the demands for independence. According to the Biafran agitator, these leaders were more interested in maintaining their power than addressing the grievances of their people. It was a sentiment that resonated with many, especially the youth who felt betrayed by a system that seemed rigged against them. The call to action was clear. This leader urged his people to reject any temptation to return to the Nigerian system. He reminded them that their strength lay in unity and resilience. "We must be vigilant," he said, "against distractions, propaganda, and anything that tries to divide us." He encouraged his followers to draw inspiration from other nations that had successfully separated and thrived. Malaysia and Singapore, for instance, had once been part of the same country, but decided to part ways. Today, both nations are doing remarkably well. Why, he asked, couldn't Nigeria follow a similar path? And then there's the heart of the matter, the struggle for global recognition. Declaring independence is one thing, but getting the world to acknowledge it is another battle entirely. The agitator reassured his people that Biafra was prepared for this challenge. He painted a picture of a self-governed region, thriving in its own right and free from the constraints of an outdated and oppressive system. The leader didn't shy away from acknowledging the difficulties ahead. He spoke of tougher times, of sacrifices that would need to be made, and of the importance of discipline and adherence to strategic instructions from the movement's leadership. "This is not a fight for the faint-hearted," he said, "but it is a fight worth fighting." He also touched on the ongoing propaganda wars. As is often the case in movements like this, there were attempts to sow discord and spread misinformation,